Hi, everyone. I just wanted to give you an update on where we're going to be this Sunday, this coming Sunday. First of all, I want to say what a joy it was for me to finally have a preaching opportunity with a live component here at Reynolds Memorial for those of you that came for our in-person worship outside. Due to COVID numbers, we will be outside once again, but we will have in-person worship. We want to strongly encourage for those of you that are in the vulnerable category to stay at home and please access our online worship experience. And that's going to continue. But if you want to come and be with us, we'd love to have you. I think rain chances are going to be elevated this Sunday as compared to last Sunday, so be mindful of that. Please bring an umbrella, not just for in case it rains, but in case just kind of give you a little shade from the sun. We're going to kind of shorten up the space just a little bit so that we're not so spread out as far as the length there. But Sister Caroline will be here with us. She'll be the preacher of the hour, and we'll be blessed by her. Again, things that you'll need to be mindful of. Face masks, face coverings will be required for everyone to wear. Social distancing, particularly for those that are not a part of your immediate family that you're in close contact with on a daily and weekly basis. And then, of course, we want you to sign in attendance, and Barbara's taking care of that. If you can provide that information, she already has that. So if you have already taken care of that, that's great. But if you haven't, kind of bring that to her. So just make sure we have updated contact information. And all that is for contact tracing. If we had a case or had an outbreak, then the health department, we would be able to isolate that in a greater way. But excited to continue to have the in-person worship experience. I'm anticipating that to last for at least a couple more weeks, and then hopefully we'll be back in the building here at Reynolds Memorial. I'll be preaching at John Wesley, and I wanted to share not just information, because these videos that I began to start with when I first came here was actually I was using them for devotion and teaching type moments, and so I wanted to kind of add that today. We have, Caroline and I kind of been following the lectionary, and she's going to be reading from Matthew's Gospel, and I am too. But I wanted to kind of give you just a little taste of that, a little bit of experience of that, so you could kind of be thinking about it and praying about it. And that way, when you hear it on Sunday, it's not just new in your ears in a sense, but you've actually had a little time to pray about it and study about it yourself. So I'm going to read all of the gospel that we'll read on Sunday, but I want to give you just a little taste of this. And so I'm going to read from Matthew 18, 2 verses. Then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? Jesus said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times. Now, I kind of like the other versions that say 70 times 7. The Greek's a little bit off in how we calculate that. But the problem of it here is Peter is just like us, right? He wants accountability. He wants to be able to hold his brother right down to the very nth detail of forgiveness, because here's the big secret, and you know this secret: forgiveness is hard. It's one of the hardest things as far as the walk of a Christian. It's something that doesn't come natural to us, and I would even argue and strongly push that forgiveness is of God, and that it requires the very touch, breath, and help of God for us to even be motivated and offer forgiveness. Now, what I like about this particular passage, and we have to put it in context, so we've got to back up just a little bit earlier in the chapter. And what Jesus is talking about is one of my favorite subjects. He's actually talking about the church. Wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of them. And there he's talking about the problems. And Jesus knows all too well that there'll be complicating factors that happen within the body of believers, the ecclesia, the Greek, the church, the assembly. And Jesus wants us to know that for us to survive, for us to persevere, for us to continue through the generations, that forgiveness has to be a vital part of who we are. And so forgiveness is for the believer to continue to work on. And so the reason I say it's of God is because forgiveness is not something that we always seem to come and find easy within ourselves. It's only after this great relationship with Jesus Christ begins to manifest itself in our life that we change and we slowly and very methodically understand the significance, and forgiveness becomes more freely to that. Now, I want to pause right here and say forgiveness is not synonymous with forgetting. You've heard the old expression, to forgive, you have to forget. Well, that's not true. That's not biblical interpretation of forgiveness. Forgiveness is more about liberating your own self so that you can continue your walk of faith with God and not be bound to grudges and guilt and pains. And so I want to share something else with you. I want to share my favorite book. One of my favorites. I have many favorites, but this is one of my favorites. It's an older book. It's Philip Yancey's The Jesus I Never Knew. And I want to read something to you from this book. Why did Jesus invest so much in these apparent losers? He's talking about the disciples, the early church. To answer that, I turn to Mark's written account, which mentions Jesus' motives to choosing the 12, that they might be with him and that he might send them out to preach, that they might be with him. Jesus never tried to hide his loneliness and his dependence on other people. He chose his disciples not as servants, but as friends. He shared moments of joy and grief with them and asked for them in times of need. They became his family, his substitute mother, brothers, and sister. They gave up everything for him, and he had given up everything for them. He loved them, plain and simple. Now, I share that with you because that's why forgiveness is so important when it comes to God's people. When it comes to the very foundation of the church, of who you and I are as people of God. Forgiveness is something that we must work at. Forgiveness is something we must pray for. That's why it's incorporated into the Lord's Prayer. Forgiveness is something that truly bears fruit when we have a relationship with God. And then Jesus gives one of these it's kind of elaborate and I'm going to call it, like I see it, almost ridiculous type parable in this story about forgiveness. And in that particular parable that you'll hear read from Caroline, and I'll be reading that at John Wesley, you will hear about this strange scenario about how all these people are interacting in forgiveness. You'll hear about how Jesus is asking us to go beyond our own selves and look at our constant communion with others. That Jesus doesn't want us to put ourselves above the privilege of others. And all these questions, how do we do that, Jesus? How will we forgive? How can we truly understand this? Find out Sunday as we gather to worship as the community of believers. May God bless you, and I hope to see you soon.